Welcome along then to a very special off-script extra time podcast. It's, as always, myself, Chris McCarty and Robbie Greenfield. And we're in today to discuss a quite seismic 24 hours in the life and times of Tottenham Hotspur, Mauricio Pochettino and Jose Mourinho, Robert.
Yeah, we are. And often in football, things seem to happen in slow motion. Something happens, there's a lot of build-up, there's speculation about a manager, it boils over and over for weeks and weeks on end, and then finally that manager leaves the club, and then an interim manager is employed, and finally a full-time manager is appointed. This was a condensed period of insanity in the world of Tottenham Hotspur, from Mauricio Pochettino being sacked late last night to Jose Mourinho being appointed seemingly early this morning. It all happened in a hurry.
It did. It's very, I guess, indicative of football society right now. It's 24/7 news cycle, and Spurs have ensured that they are front and centre from a sporting standpoint. Let's start with Poch if we can. I've gone on record numerous times to say I'm a huge Mauricio Pochettino fan. I think the job that he's done at Spurs, I think, is a remarkable one. And yes, there will be those that say, well, hold on a second, Chris, he never did win a trophy. We'll get to that in a second. Your appraisal, Robert, of the job that he's done?
Oh, I mean, he's done an amazing job.
Regardless,
he's done an amazing job. And there was always the feeling that Spurs were lucky to have him. And that's what really makes this whole decision and what's unfolded in the last 24 hours just such a head scratcher. Because in Mauricio Pochettino, Spurs had one of the most coveted managers on the planet. And at great expense, they've opted to sack him. They've doubled the salary of Pochettino to bring in an obviously legendary manager who comes with a whole bunch of caveats. I mean, Jose Mourinho now carries a lot of baggage. He's not the Jose Mourinho that waltzed into Chelsea 15 years ago. He's a very, very different man, and he's a very different manager. And if we base our appraisal of him on his last couple of seasons at Manchester United, there are pitfalls that lurk around the corner for Tottenham Hotspur. But yeah, to get back to Mauricio Pochettino, he clearly, I feel, we never quite know what goes on behind the scenes. So it's hard to appraise the sense of the decision based purely on, if it was just, you know, Pochettino's a great manager, what on earth are they doing? Then that's understandable. But clearly something has happened where you always feel like when a manager reaches a point where things are untenable, there's no option but to part company. And you get the feeling that sometime over the summer, following the fact that they got to the Champions League final, following that defeat to Liverpool in the final, you know, that felt like the end of a cycle. That felt like Mauricio Pochettino taking that team as far as he could take them. Yeah,
that's exactly it. I think there has been comments made that there are an awful lot of comparisons made to Jurgen Klopp's time at Borussia Dortmund. There is no animosity there. They have parted ways, and I think they'll both have great love and deep respect for one another. In the case of Mauricio Pochettino and Tottenham fans, and Daniel Levy, the chairman, of course, and the club itself will look back in the time of Mauricio Pochettino as a successful one overall. But there has been a feeling since the start of the season that all was not well. Now, speculation is rife that the likes of Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld, Christian Eriksen, Dele Alli, who's gone a bit missing, Danny Rose, certainly in the Rose case, the Eriksen, the Vertonghen and the Alderweireld, some suggestion in recent weeks that they have not been too enamoured, let's say, by Mauricio, that they were hankering for maybe a move away from the football club. The arrival of Jose may change that, but I wonder if it's that, in part, that has led to this parting of ways, that Daniel Levy is looking at 4 players there who, on the open market right now, that's 200 million easy worth of talent right there, 150, let's say, given the fact, of course, Alderweireld and Vertonghen are not getting any younger, Rose the same, but there's a lot of talent there, and the first port of call for Jose is to get those 4 back on side, and maybe to get them to sign some new deals.
Agreed, but the problem that I think Spurs are going to face is that, and this is a point that's been hammered home on Twitter by football pundits and writers across the UK, is that Jose Mourinho is a shock manager. He comes in, he gives a big jolt to the system, and he ekes every last drop of kind of ability and potential out of that team, often to great cost of the sort of mental wherewithal of the team. Mauricio Pochettino is as far away from that style of manager as you can get. He's a long-term manager. He thinks about the future. He thinks about styles.
But on that, sorry to jump in, Rob. On that, though, thinking always about the future. Now, I'm a huge fan. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here on all of this. But at what point do you stop looking in the future and you start worrying about the here and now? Now, it depends on what kind of football fan you are. Do you want the pretty patterns or do you want trophies? In the case of Levy and where Spurs currently are, he's made the decision as chairman that it's time Spurs started challenging for titles, for trophies.
Yeah, and they should have won the FA Cup. They should have beaten Chelsea in that FA Cup final, but they didn't, and they still are without the trophy. But the problem is that you're a team where you're coveted for the style of football that you play, for the philosophies that you have, for the ethos that you have ingrained, for the fact that you're punching so far above your weight. Spurs have moved into this £1 billion stadium, and they didn't sign a player. They did not sign a player, and they got to the Champions League final. I mean, it's unheard of what he's achieved, actually, when you think about it, with the group of players, with the money that they've spent versus what Manchester City, what Liverpool, what Chelsea, what Manchester United have spent. They are punching so far above their weight. And it's be careful what you wish for as far as the supporters are concerned. I know a lot of the Spurs fans are not particularly enamoured by this decision, but this idea that Jose Mourinho will come in and he will win a trophy because that's what he does, I'm by no means convinced, because let's be honest, what trophies is he going to go for? Well, he's going to target the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. Those are really the only two trophies that he's got available to him. They're not going to win the league under Jose Mourinho. I can't see it.
Not this season.
I mean, it would require a monumental investment for them to be capable of getting a squad that is challenging where Liverpool and Manchester City are right now.
That being said, that same squad got to the Champions League final last season.
Yeah, I mean, they got there in a sort of roundabout way. I mean, they got there by the skin of their teeth, but they got there. But that's knockout football, as you would always say.
Yeah.
You can sometimes do that. Games and results are fickle. They can go your way, and Spurs did brilliantly. I mean, they did absolutely brilliantly to get there, but they didn't show up in the final, and they have this habit of choking. As a club, they have a habit of bottling the big occasion. Chelsea shook that off, and they became serial winners. When you look at Jose Mourinho's first foray into the English Premier League, he changed the culture there. The interesting thing about this is, can he now, much older, he's 15 years older than he was when he came in his prime, in the flush of youth.
Now.
Yeah, he's 56. Does he still have the energy and the love and the belief and the passion to change this culture of Tottenham Hotspur underachieving?
Sensing your tone right now, it would suggest that you do not feel that Jose will be a success at Spurs.
I don't think so. If I was a betting man, I would say that Jose Mourinho will leave before the end of the expiration of his contract in 2022-23, and I don't expect him to win a trophy.
See, I'll go against the grain a little bit. Now, I'm a huge Poch fan, and whilst do I think the decision to sack Poch was a wrong one, I would have liked to have seen him given more time. But again, it's football. It's a fickle industry. We know that. It's a results-driven industry. Did he deserve a little bit more time to turn it around? Probably. The decision has been taken. And as I said earlier, the cycle maybe had come to an end, so they move on. I, though, on the other hand, feel that, and maybe Jose's hoodwinked me, as he's done many a folk over his years in football. He's talked a good game lately. He's talked about seeing the error of his ways. Interesting as well, brand new backroom staff, individuals he hasn't worked with before. João Sacramento, a fellow Portuguese, he's come in from Lille. Nuno Santos is a goalkeeping coach, again coming in from Lille. These are not men that Jose has worked with before. So that to me suggests that this is maybe Jose 2.0. Now, will he always be pragmatic? Probably. But what I made the point with, when he came in at Manchester United, Louis van Gaal had been given, 2 seasons at that football club to try and extract the very best out of. They were wedded to Louis' principles. They were even more pragmatic than Jose. I actually think the other way. I think Jose is going to come in, and I think Jose is going to profit from the 5.5 years that these players have had under Poch. I think they're not going to be as expansive, of course they aren't, but I think his wherewithal, his experience, his ability to set up teams to be that little bit more defensively solid, much more than, say, a Mauricio Pochettino, I think the ingredients are there. And I know that might be in the minority, but again, similar to how I was with Frank Lampard coming in at Chelsea, where Spurs are on their current journey, I actually think there's room for optimism. And I know you're looking at me right now, Robbie, as if to say, what on earth are you on about?
You couldn't wait to wave goodbye to Jose when he was at Manchester United.
But again, a different environment, a different club is where I'm at. You know, that's a different set of players.
The thing that worries me is, yes, okay, he's had a break, he's refreshed, but at the same time, he's 56. Is a leopard really going to change his spots? I mean, the thing
Managers have. Managers have mellowed. And again, I go back to looking at a new backroom staff. Now, he's still the boss, of course he is. But the fact he's willing to bring in new faces, new ideas.
Well, that's his choice, though.
Yeah,
Louis Faria, could he have brought him in?
Rui Faria's over in Qatar now. He's a manager in his own right. But there's the other individuals he's worked with. Silvio Lorno, his goalkeeping coach. I'm led to believe he's not going to get a role in this new Tottenham backroom staff. He's looked at new faces. These are new individuals. You know, you look at what he did at Chelsea. Steve Clarke came in. Real Madrid, Aitor Karanka. Manchester United, it was Kieran McKenna who he promoted. And I jumped on my social media to just ponder whether Kieran McKenna would be of interest to Jose, given the fact that Kieran, young first-team coach at Manchester United, Northern Irish lad, actually spent 7 years on the coaching staff at Spurs between 02 and 09. So maybe watch that space, but the fact there's a new backroom team, the fact there's new ideas in there, the fact that Jose's had 11 months out of the game, I'm going to tend to agree with him, and maybe I'll end up with egg in my face. I think we are going to see a new Jose. I think he has gone away, and I think he has studied and all the rest of it. Yes, okay, he'll still have his principles, but I wonder now if Jose, with that job, with the work that Poch has already done, with the mindset of those players, with your Harry Kanes, with your Undembeles, with your Heung-min Sons, your Ericssons, I think there's a nucleus. I mean, I'm stating the bleeding obvious. They got to the Champions League final last season. They ain't bad players overnight. And maybe just Jose's mentality. We had John Terry sat in this very chair a few days ago stating this, that maybe, just maybe, the environment and the squad that Poch has put together, this is a squad used to being asked to raise their levels. You know, Poch, make no mistake, maybe did it in a different way from Jose, but he extracted everything out of those players. I wonder if Jose's going to kick them on. And I would say, sitting here, I have a feeling he'll win a trophy with Spurs.
Well, that's a huge call. I mean, Chelsea and Jose Mourinho all those years ago, they really were a match made in heaven.
They were.
Because Jose had this infectious just charisma and unbelievable confidence, arrogance you could call it, but this siege mentality, as you often say, married together with a club just relentlessly on the up and up, and they kind of came together at the perfect time, and obviously they had amazing success in their first couple of seasons. You described his arrival at Manchester United in many ways as a marriage of convenience.
Yes.
It was Manchester United, a club in crisis. It was the big manager reputation of Jose Mourinho, that he'll win you a trophy at all costs, quick fix kind of model. And okay, he actually states that his second place finish in the Premier League in that first season was one of his best ever achievements. I'm not sure.
Ever.
His best ever, he says. And I guess, now we look at what Solskjaer's doing. Maybe we judge it a little bit differently, his time there. But the problem is that
he's a checkbook manager. Do you subscribe to that view?
I just think that which Jose are we really analysing here? I think a lot of us, and I think this is something that's natural, we think of him as that exuberant force of nature. Whereas if you actually think about how he was at Manchester United in those last couple of seasons, he had like dead eyes. I mean, he didn't look interested.
Yeah.
He was sullen. He was constantly at war. He was picking battles with players. Paul Pogba. He was antagonising. He was going into battle. He was essentially a combustive and a kind of acerbic presence. And
dare I say, Rob, sorry to jump in.
There may be a honeymoon period, but that will happen again at Tottenham. You can mark my words.
Dare I say that was a realisation from Jose that the club is bigger than him. At Chelsea, he was bigger than Chelsea. And that'll get the goat up of a few Chelsea fans, I'm sure. Sense a little bit that Jose's bigger than Spurs. And that will also get the goat up of Spurs fans, I'm sure. But you know what I mean? I actually think the more I think about it, the more I think, Jose's going to love this. Jose right now has got a proper pep in his step. It's a beautiful stadium, and I know the accusations that he's a checkbook manager, and they are well founded because throughout his career, maybe not at Porto.
25 trophies. He's more than a checkbook manager.
What I mean by that is,
he needs to wield. He's never gone somewhere and gone, I'll work on a shoestring.
No, He's never done that. He's never gone in and went, listen, let me look at the academy and I'll promote one or two and we'll be successful from that. So, but I just think, though, and clearly we're not aware of what Daniel Levy has promised Jose in the way of funds come this summer. But I just think for Jose, looking at that Spurs squad, I don't think the Spurs squad it's certainly not a 14th in the Premier League where they currently are squad. That is a good enough squad to be battling for top 4. Is it good enough to win the league? No, I don't think it is. But I also think that Jose has capabilities, a little like Poch, very different way, as I say, but of extracting a lot more out of them. And I think the marriage of Jose's kind of outlook with already the stellar work that Poch has put in for 5.5 years, because that work isn't forgotten. It's not like Jose comes in and all of a sudden the Spurs players forget what they've done for 5.5 years. I think Jose just takes it up a notch, a little bit differently, defensively a little bit more, and I think it's the winning mentality that Jose instills into your Kanes, your Alis, your Ericssons to a lesser degree. And I think that, your Harry Winks, your Ndombele, Lo Celso, there's a heck of a squad there. There's a really good team there. And it's going to be fascinating to watch. I want to ask quickly on Poch, Rob, because there are one or two jobs out there. Bayern Munich, of course, they've got a caretaker in charge there. Zizou has ridden out the latest crisis at the Bernabeu. I know AC Milan have had their kind of problems in recent years. I mean, where does he go, Poch?
Well, a club you've not mentioned is Manchester United, of course, and you have been coveting this man for quite some time as your manager. But of course, you know, it seems like Manchester United's faith for now at least is still with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. How long that will last, and depending on how results go between now and Christmas. I mean, you could have a situation, and I don't know whether someone at Manchester United will have a quiet word with Mauricio Pochettino's people to say, sit tight. You know, you just do not know what's going to happen. We'd love to have you on board if things don't work out with Ole.
Is that you surmising that maybe Ed Woodward will look for an excuse to get rid of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
Well, as you say, while Spurs need more than anything a trophy, Manchester United more than anything need a philosophy.
Well, they
need an ethos. They've got it, but they still don't have the infrastructure at the club to support it. It's still a bit pie in the sky for me. It's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer trotting out cliches about using wide men and pace up the flanks and whipping crosses in and playing the Manchester United way.
Yeah.
They know what the Manchester United way is, but I would still question as to whether they've actually carefully implemented that strategy. And Mauricio Pochettino, I know you would agree, is a guy that can come in and actually help implement that.
Big fan.
And it may just be that Manchester United, in a roundabout way, ends up being his destination. But one thing I'm sure of, I would argue that this whole turn of events will work out better for Poch than it will for Tottenham in the long run. That's my belief. I don't think Jose Mourinho is going to win a trophy.
Oh, he will.
I'll set my stall out. So between now and 2022, Spurs win a trophy.
Absolutely.
And what do you think? He's just going to go, right, we'll just lock up the Carabao Cup.
It may well be, mate. I don't know. We're speculating
We'll play
wildly.
our first 11 every single Carabao Cup match to ensure we win that.
The question you're saying is, do they win a trophy? And I will say yes to that. Now, we will come back here in 2023. I don't know where we will be in the world, but if we're still here, we'll have this debate. And again, it comes back to it. As a football fan or as a football chairman or as a football club, what do you put stock in? Is it the lovely football or is it trophies? You can have both, of course you can. Man City, Liverpool, Manchester United back in the day. You can have both, of course you can. But right now, I think there's been a decision made there. It's we want a trophy. By hook or by crook, we want a trophy. Now, are you asking me, does Jose win something? I don't know what it will be. We can speculate all we want, but he will win a trophy. And that will instantly, from a trophy count, make him ahead of Mauricio Pochettino, because in 5.5 years, all the great work, and I love Poch, and I do want him at Old Trafford, by the way, he hadn't won a trophy. Now, the other argument would be, had you given Poch the resources that are being speculated and being talked about now are about to be given to Jose, then you might have just done that. You know, it's a marriage of...
Yeah, and I'm one of these weird people that would actually prefer to reach the Champions League final and play the way they played and have the season they had
I get that.
than to nick a Carabao Cup.
I get that. I completely understand that.
But then there's a supporter that just wants their day in the sun.
Yeah.
And, you know, they want to see their team lift a trophy. And that is, to be fair, the majority of football fans.
Trophies are the currency with which an awful lot of managers are judged. Arsene Wenger was hounded out at the Emirates because of not winning trophies.
And the irony has not been lost on Arsenal fans.
No.
That Unai Emery prevails while Mauricio Pochettino
that's
over the road is no more.
Incredible. So we've now got two big managers out of a job, Max Allegri and Mauricio Pochettino. Summing up then, Rob, for you, Spurs will be the losers out of this, ultimately.
Well, they've already made such a financial commitment. They've paid off Pochettino. They've doubled Pochettino's salary to get Mourinho in. And you have to surmise, even though I'm reading articles to say that he doesn't want to spend money in January, you have to surmise that part of those conversations have included how much am I going to be given to spend, either in the summer or at some point in the near future, so that I can bolster this squad, so that if you really want to win the Premier League, you're going to have to back me. He will have said that, guaranteed. He's not going to go, okay, yeah, I'll work on a shoestring, that's my style. He just doesn't do that. So unless Jose Mourinho has completely changed his ways, has completely reinvented himself as a manager, I see problems in the road, maybe not in the honeymoon period. I'm sure his first few games in charge will go well. I'm sure of that. But after a while, when the reality sets in, when it becomes apparent perhaps that Jose is not the man he was 15 years ago, that he is the gruff, surly character that we saw towards the end of the Manchester United days, then where are Tottenham Hotspur? That's my feeling on it. Mauricio Pochettino, wherever he ends up, whether it's Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Manchester United, I'm sure he's got a bright future regardless, and he will not be lacking in terms of offers.
One thing that we can promise, we're speculating wildly, of course, we're only giving our opinion, is that it will be proper footballing theatre.
It will.
With Jose
Cannot
back.
wait for Chelsea Spurs.
Well, that's
just
it.
a few days before Christmas.
It is December 22nd. It is a baptism of fire for Jose. He begins his reign as Spurs boss at the London Stadium this coming weekend. It is West Ham against Spurs. As for Manchester United, and you see where I'm going with this, all eyes will be on Bramall Lane on Sunday. It is Sheffield United against Manchester United, and with the spectre, the shadow of Mauricio Pochettino looming large, every single adverse result between now and whenever Pochettino gets a job will immediately be followed by
Sheffield United are a team in form.
They are as well. It's going to be interesting. For what it's worth, I've got a feeling, Spurs fans, and listen, I've had many feelings that haven't worked out well over the years. It's going to be interesting, Jose, and it wouldn't surprise me if Jose 2.0 does something a bit special with Spurs. And I want to be truthful and I want to be honest about this, Mauricio Pochettino will deserve an awful lot of credit for that success, because I think Jose is merely building on some incredible foundations at that football club. An amazing 24 hours if you're a Tottenham fan. It is quite remarkable. Pochettino gone, Mourinho in. There is never a dull moment. What's the old saying? 7 days is a long time in football. 24 hours is an awful long time in the world of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. That is it for this edition of Off Script Extra Time Podcast. Your thoughts are welcome. Do comment below, have your say, and tell us if we've been talking nonsense over the course of the last 25 minutes. We've got thick skin these days, Rob.
We do indeed. Bring it on.
Top stuff.